Yeah, Jeremy, could you express something about artificial intelligence and how that is? Oh, yeah.
The singularity, you write well about the singularity.
Right.
Because you talk about
Yes.
Kurzweil, etc.
Yes, for sure. Well, I mean, we see scientists now talking about artificial intelligence as being potentially the greatest existential threat to humanity. But this might be going in a slightly different direction than you're asking, and so I'll come back to, I think, where you're going. But I do want to point out that what I find ironic is that we are already experiencing this existential destruction caused by artificial intelligence, and it's called the corporation, which essentially was this artificial construction put together a few hundred years ago with the intention of optimizing shareholder value, with no other, ultimately with no other constraints to that. So when people talk about artificial intelligence as an existential threat, oftentimes they give this example of, well, imagine you created some sort of computer that was so intelligent and it just had this one optimization to make paper clips. And so it made paper clips so well that it saw the whole of the earth as a resource for making paper clips. And regardless of what was the well-being of anything, that's what it did. Until the whole earth became nothing other than a paperclip manufacturing facility. So that's what they give as the example. And we're already experiencing that, except of course it's not paperclips, but it's shareholder value at the expense of the earth. So I do think when we hear these scientists talking about the risk of AI, it's really good to do this kind of pinch ourselves and do the reality check and say, actually, we're facing just these kind of issues. So I just kind of wanted to make that point, but I know where you're going, obviously, with somewhere a little different about, is there, like in the book, I talk about this notion of the singularity, and this notion of how technology is expanding at such an exponential rate that there are people who do see this way in which artificial intelligence can easily get to that point where it surpasses human intelligence. What happens after that? Some people view that as a great potential because humans can then sort of actually really follow that dualistic vision to the extreme. And so one of the things I notice, a lot of you probably are familiar with Raymond Kurzweil, who's the sort of prophet of the singularity, and he has his Singularity University down in Silicon Valley, and he talks about this. He hopes that he'll be immortal. If he can live long enough, just another couple of decades, he can download his brain so that his body will die, and then the brain can be uploaded into the cloud or whatever. And Raymond Kurzweil too will sort of stay there and enjoy all of this kind of movement towards singularity. And to me, I show how that is just this continuation of this idea that Plato had 2,500 years ago, that humans are this split being between mind and body, except now it's moved from mind and body to software and hardware, and the mind does the software, and let the hardware go. And it's a fallacy. And I feel sad for Raymond Kurzweil, because one day he's going to die, and he's going to be really disappointed. There's no Raymond Kurzweil 2.0 there. But I do think that the best way we can approach technology and its incredible exponential change is to think about how we can use that to harmonize with nature. I think it's a mistake for anyone in the environmental movement to reject technology, to be afraid of it, to see it as a danger, which it is, of course, and it's as we see all around us all the time. But that's not the way in which we're going to really give this dream of a future possibility to younger generations by saying, no, technology is a bad thing. What we need to do is say, what can we do with this technology to enable us to harmonize? How can we use the internet so that rather than giving us fake news and trolls and all of the disastrous stuff we see around us right now, to truly enable this emergent quality of humans recognizing that we're not just not individuals, and not just not local communities, we are one interconnected whole. And we're seeing that. And I think one of the great opportunities we see with something like that is something like we've just seen recently with the #MeToo movement, where in a relatively short time, we're looking at something that's so embedded in human history. And I look at the patriarchy as being one of the things that arose with agriculture 12,000 years ago. And it's one of these things that no matter what changes, patriarchy is always right there and seemingly unstoppable. And yet, maybe we're seeing one of these real true shifts in the undercurrent of history happening in such a relatively short time, because under the surface it's been happening. But through the connection of the internet, people can connect up and make reality change at a faster rate than we've imagined in the past. So that's where I see the hope, and where I see our vision is to harness technology to that end.